believe in yourself and have pride in yourself, I would say, and don't fall into just being one of the blokes.
Welcome to the Beers with a Miner podcast, episode number 18. I am Mad Mumzie. For years now, I have been asked the same questions. How does a little thing like you drive those big trucks? You must be rich. How do I get a job doing that? Not everyone is cut out to be a miner, but why not? What is it really like, and what does it take to thrive and survive in this industry? Tune in each episode as I sit down for a relaxed chat, usually over a few beers with a fellow miner. Audio blogs are also shared, so you don't have to read. Now let's dig in. Get it? Dig? Mining? Ah, crack me up. This week I have Lyn Olsen on the podcast, and Lyn began her mining career as a breakfast cook way back in 1986 and ended up as a laboratory supervisor. That's 30 years ago. A lot has changed since then. As a lady who forged the way for many of us today to work in male-dominated industries, we dig into questions like, what challenges did she face? What was it like being one of the only girls on a mine site in the 80s, and much more. Lyn is also my mum. I am so very proud and honoured to have her as a role model and inspiration to keep going with all my dreams and passions. Welcome to the Beers with a Miner podcast, Mum. Lyn.
Thank you, Leanne. Pleased to be here. Hope I can help.
Oh, I'm sure that you can. Now, as this podcast is called the Beers with a Miner podcast, I like to start these happy hour episodes with my guests sharing their favourite beverage and also their favourite time to enjoy it. It could be a beer, wine, spirit, or perhaps even a cup of tea. What is yours?
Well, it's definitely not a cup of tea at this hour of the night. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, as we all say, but it actually is 5 o'clock at the moment, I think. My beverage of choice is a glass of Shiraz, red wine, which I love, and it's from the Barossa Valley in South Australia, of course.
Of course.
Yeah. It's winter at the moment, so I like to drink red, but in the summer I like to drink a nice Sauv Blanc, nice white chilled wine, and that suits me just fine.
You don't have ice in your wine, do you?
No, unless it's a 40-degree day and they say drink it at room temperature. Well, that's far too hot. So I don't really put ice in it, but I like it chilled in the fridge.
That's right. Whereas I have mine, we've had many a discussion over this, and I've even brought it up on past podcast episodes. But I have mine off the shelf. What's that? Room temperature. But I chuck a couple of ice blocks in it. But I'm a beer drinker, not a wine connoisseur.
Yeah, that's sacrilege.
Yeah. I remember when I first started drinking wine and I went down to Adelaide and I was staying at a motel, quite a flash place, and I went down to the restaurant and I ordered what I thought was going to be a red wine. Do you remember this story? And no. I sent you a picture. I was having a steak, and the wine that I ordered was actually a white wine. And I was trying to be yes, I'll have what's the white wine that you drink when we go out?
Sauv Blanc.
The Sauv Blanc, yeah. So I must have said that. I'll have a Sauv Blanc, thinking I was saying a Cab Sav. And it came out and it was white. And I felt like, well, they didn't know I got the wrong one, but they probably thought, why is she having a white wine with her steak?
Yeah, it's far more acceptable now, I think, to drink whichever white or red with whatever you want.
Oh, okay, that's good. Because I remember I sent you a picture and said, I got it wrong. What did I do?
Times have changed.
Times have changed. Okay, well, let's dig into the interview. You ready?
I'm ready.
You're ready? Bring it on. Let's dig in. Let's start with your story. How did you get into mining? And what was the first thing you did? I believe it was back in 1986. And why did you get into mining?
Yes, it was in 1986. I'd worked all my married life in the corporate world at a very high level and loved it. And then when I became single again, I moved to a country town in South Australia, and I had to work 2 jobs to get somewhere near the salary that I was getting in the corporate world, even though that fell a lot short. And one day I was working in the bar, which was my second job, and these 4 or 5 neatly, nicely dressed young ladies came in wearing the excellent gold bracelets and the right haircut and all the rest of it. And I thought, I wonder where they work around here. So I asked them, and they said, we work out at the local mine. And my ears pricked up, and I said, what do you do out there? And they said, we're cleaners. And I thought, cleaners? Because back then I thought cleaners were on pretty low salary compared to what I had been on. And we got talking, and I asked one of them, I said, if you don't mind me asking, what would you earn a week? Or what would you take home a week? And they said, well, we take home $500 a week. And the dollar signs went up, and I thought, I'm struggling. I don't even get that on 2 jobs.
I'll just interrupt. Remember that's 30 years ago.
I know.
So $500 30 years ago was a shitload of money.
In 1986, it was very good money. And for a cleaner as well.
Especially. That's
yes.
Right.
And I thought, I don't know. Maybe I'll try and get a job out there as a cleaner. Anyway, I didn't think anything more about it, and they kept coming in regularly. And then one day the camp manager from the local mine come in, and he asked me if I knew anyone who was a breakfast cook, because they needed one out in the mines. And I thought, here's my opportunity. And I said, what about me? And he said, can you cook breakfast? And I said, what do you have to cook? He said, bacon and eggs. And I said, I could cook bacon and eggs. Not knowing at the time that it would be for 120 hungry guys. So he said, okay, come on out and I'll give you a go. So it was a real culture shock, and I loved it. And I got a reputation for my scrambled eggs being the best over the years. And I had to also clean crib rooms, which were their smoko huts, I suppose, and lunch huts back then. And I really liked it, and I did that for 12 months, but it was hard work and hot work.
And what time did you have to get up? Like breakfast cook, you'd have to be organised pretty early.
Yes, about 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
Start at 6, but you had a lot of prep work to do beforehand. And it was long days, and it was hot and dry out in the outback of South Australia. So I did that for about 12 months and thought, no, I'm over this. I think I want to do something else. And I was walking my dog one day, which happened to be an Old English sheepdog, which was a bit of a joke in the mine and within the family because it was all red dirt out there. And I had this big young Old English sheepdog.
Oh, Mishka.
Yeah. And I'd put in my resignation, and I was walking her after work, and this mine vehicle pulled up, and it was the mine manager. And he pulled over and he said, I hear you're leaving, Lyn. And I said, yes. And he said, why don't you come and work for us? And I said, what doing? He said, in the laboratory. I said, no, I couldn't work in the laboratory. I didn't do chemistry at school.
No scientist.
No, I was a secretary. And his words to me was, we can train you. We can train monkeys to do anything nowadays. So you'll start at the bottom and we'll give you a job. And I really liked the place, so I thought, okay, I'll give that a go. So I stayed where I was in my own room, started work with them, and it was in their sample preparation area, which to the uninitiated, and to me, was just weighing up piles of dirt.
Because you were the uninitiated.
Putting it through various machines to get different crushing fines and all that. And I did that for about 6 months. And then they put me in the laboratory, and all I did was weigh up samples. It was a copper mine at the time, and that all went well. It was very basic what I did, but after that, I'd made quite a bit of money, and I decided I wanted to go and live in Queensland and open my own shop.
Sounds familiar. Where did I get on going to open a hippie shop from? I never thought about that. Yeah,
so I moved holus bolus to Sunshine Coast, to Mooloolaba, and opened a little craft shop. And what a mad mistake that was. No way did I make $500 a week. It was good fun, but the funds got really, really low. So I did that for about a year, and then I moved to Townsville, thinking that might be the answer. And that wasn't the answer. And then I thought, the only thing I can do is to get back into the mines. I'm going to have to get back into catering to start off, because catering is a good starting place to get into the mines.
So like preparing the meals in the kitchen and stuff, that's catering, isn't it?
Yeah. Kitchen hand and breakfast cook and all that. So I applied for a job and they took me on straight away, but it was in West Australia. So
Western Australia.
So I got on a bus, and 5 days later from Townsville to Perth, there I arrived in Western Australia as a breakfast cook once again.
Had you ever been to WA?
I had done with you, if you remember.
Oh, yeah. For motorbikes.
For motorbikes.
Yeah, but other than that, you
No.
hadn't ever lived over there or worked over there or... No, we went over there for the national titles, didn't we?
That's right.
I remember going on the bus on the Nullarbor and brushing our teeth in bore water. It was disgusting.
Yeah. And we liked West Australia, and mostly the southwest corner, which everybody knows and loves. It was great, but the mine I got sent to was nowhere down in the lovely southwest of Western Australia. It was out on the edge of the Simpson Desert, 12 hours drive from Perth. I won't name the mine, but there was quite a few it was a gold mine out there. So I started all over again as a breakfast cook.
What a huge change from... Did you see that as a backwards move? Like you were a breakfast cook, then you got into the lab and stuff, and then you ended up back as a breakfast cook. How did you... Or were you just pleased to be back in the mining, back in the money? You gave your little shop a go... And there you were in the 12 hours from Perth on the other side of the country.
Yeah, I decided hard work was the only way to go. And I was still single and I was there to make money. And this time I was going to stay until I'd reached my goals, which I didn't know at that stage what they were, but I just knew that this was the answer for me. So I started that all over again with the view that I wouldn't work for the catering company for too long. I would change over to the mine and get into the laboratory, which is what I did. Yep. I only worked 3 months or something and then applied for a job with the company and got put into the laboratory. At the bottom, once again, weighing up.
Which would have been tough.
Yeah, it was
But at
tough.
least you were back in the lab again.
Yeah, it didn't bother me. I loved it. It was a terrific life. There weren't many women there, so I
Did you have to wear a white lab coat like a scientist?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, you did? Really?
Yeah,
I thought you were so sure you were going to say no. I've never asked you that before.
Yeah, we did until later on in the story. I decided when I got to be a supervisor I didn't like them, so we ended up with coloured coats. Surprise, surprise.
Coming from, we won't. Spoiler alert. No, we won't say that. So you were back in the kitchen. Is this where the Silverside story comes from?
Oh, the Silverside story.
The Silverside story.
Yes.
I love this story. Please share it.
All right. I was breakfast cook once again. Apparently my scrambled eggs went down very well, and amongst other things I got quite creative, and we had a fairly good budget for meals back then, a lot to play with. Anyway, the chef was going away for a weekend and he got me to cook the meals, and he left strict instructions on what I had to have and serve, and one of them was Silverside, which I didn't know at the time was supposed to last through about 3 meals. Anyway, I cooked this Silverside for hours and hours and hours my way.
As you do. You make the best Silverside at home.
Yeah, and the aroma wafted right throughout the mess, and everyone who came to lunch and what have you. It was going to be for tea that night, and everyone went, "Oh, what are you cooking?" Because I don't think they'd smelt that lovely aroma for a long time. I said, "Silverside." So they all come in and had tea. There was not going in for tea because there wasn't anything they liked. They all lined up for this Silverside, and then they were all making sandwiches for crib the next day. And anyway, it lasted through tea that night, And by breakfast time the next day, the whole lot had gone. And
Word got out.
And I did end up getting into trouble with the chef.
What did he say?
Because I blew the budget. But I didn't care. Everyone said to him, "Oh, you should get her to cook more often," which didn't go down that well at the time.
Oh, because he's the chef and you were the breakfast cook. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, that was all right. And then it wasn't long after that I changed over to the mine again and got a job in the laboratory.
Back in the lab, yeah.
Back in the lab, which was all girls at the time. So,
true.
Yeah, it was great. There weren't many females on site.
Can you talk about that? Because this is 30 years ago. Was that a common place for the women to be in the lab?
Yeah.
What else were they usually doing, women in those days?
Well, there was 2 or 3 worked in admin. There was about 3 drove trucks, not very many of them.
Yeah.
And then there were the laboratory girls who were partners or girlfriends of guys who already worked there.
Ah, right.
They got there because they asked. They didn't advertise. They asked and said, if you've got a lady somewhere, we'll give her a job.
Yep.
And we all sort of learnt like that.
Yeah.
And it was great. But I think there was 8 women all up and about 150 guys in that mine.
Wow.
Yeah. It was
not quite the 20% women by 2020 target that they're heading for at the moment. Like, not even close.
No. It was, and it was really tough back then. There was a lot on you. You got so much attention put on you all the time. You're in the spotlight because of these guys.
Because why?
Because there weren't many women.
Yeah. And
plus the roster was not real good.
And what roster?
6 weeks on and 1 week off.
Holy crap.
12-hour days. And it was pretty tough because it was really, really hot out there.
What sort of temperatures when you say hot? Because I haven't worked over in the Pilbara or WA, only in Queensland and New South Wales where it was freezing.
Well, one day it did get to 52 degrees in the pit.
Oh, gosh.
And we had a couple of drillers actually pass out.
Oh, yeah.
Down there.
Because you're in all your
hot.
PPE. Or did they used to wear, I hadn't thought of this question, did they used to wear shorts or long pants or
no long
short
pants.
sleeves? No long pants.
We wore shorts and tank tops.
Yeah.
In the lab and a coat if we were working with chemicals. If we weren't working with the chemicals, if we were out the back weighing up samples, we didn't wear a lab coat because it's too dusty and dirty and that.
Yeah.
So
and it's white. It's too hard to clean.
Yes. But no, we just wore shorts, which, thinking on it now, what everyone wears. And working with the dangerous chemicals, it just wasn't on. It was amazing that we didn't get accidents and burns and things like that.
That's right. And then there's
a couple of little burns here and there, but not much.
Yeah. And has that affected your skin much? Like, does it go away, or when you get what sort of burn is it? Acid or something?
Yeah, it's an acid burn. I've got a nitric acid burn there. We did wear rubber gloves when we were handling the acids, and we wore safety glasses. And that's about all.
So what was the nitric acid used for?
It was used in the chemical process to find out how much gold was in a sample.
Yeah. Could you see the gold?
No.
Oh, so there weren't big nuggets coming through that you weighed up like on a scale?
No.
Little ouncy thing?
Just looked like dirt.
Oh,
and it
boring.
wasn't until it went through all the processes and was assayed at the end did you get a result. But you had to be very, very particular and very careful about everything you did because the whole mine, this particular mine, there was 3 pits and all those results came from the laboratory as to which ones they were going to dig first or next or what was going to happen. So the results had to be spot on. So you needed good people in there. There was a lot of good people in there, but there was a lot who wanted to do shortcuts and things like that.
So we just had a little pause. La, la, la. Cheers, Mummy.
Cheers.
Enjoying this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were in the lab.
When I suppose they're called samplers, would drop off pallets full of samples that were in calico bags. I can't remember. I think they were about 5 kilo. It's a long time ago.
Yeah. Were they in pounds or kilos?
Kilos.
It
It wasn't that long ago. And they're on pallets and all marked at which pit and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had 4 or 5 guys worked in sample preparation, which was the dirty part of the lab, and the girls worked in what we called the wet lab, which was the final processing. When the pallets came in, all labelled, and each bag was labelled with a sample number, they had to be loaded into an oven for 12 hours to be dried out. And if you opened the bag and looked at it and felt it, you'd think it was dry, but it's not. It's not dry. It's classed as a wet sample that had to go in the oven. Well, to keep the process rolling, because it was a continuous 24-hour process, we worked day and night, and the lab had to keep going to keep the whole mine going.
So you did do night shift?
I did night shift, yes, as well. And to keep the boys out the back on night shift busy, I used to drive the forklift, which was a bit of a laugh because I was hopeless, and load these pallets into the up onto a deck and then into the oven. So it was pretty hot, hard work. And I got a lot of the guys' respect, because when I first took over, that was when I was laboratory supervisor. I've jumped a bit because I started off, I wasn't a laboratory supervisor. And by law of attrition, with people leaving, I ended up going up.
Because you're the only one left.
As a leading hand. I was the only one left who knew more than the new ones coming in. So I was it. Yes. And back then, there was this real male-female thing. We got paid the same money as they did.
Yep, that's one good
which
thing.
is what you do now.
Yep.
But we had to do the same work, if not work harder. And we've heard that right throughout the industry, through every industry. You've got to prove yourself. So we worked twice as hard as the guys. Sorry, guys, but we did. Yeah. So I used to keep it going by packing all the ovens for them. They didn't have excuse to sit around outside making out they were doing something when they were actually smoking. And
back in the days, talk about that.
Well, yeah. Even the girls, everybody smoked, and it was quite annoying because
Did you smoke?
No, not then. I'd given up by then. People smoked, and every half hour or hour they'd down tools and disappear, and they'd be outside smoking, and one would go out and the other one would go out with them, so naturally they'd have a little chat, and it'd be about half an hour before they come back. And I started to weigh all this up one day, and because we weren't meeting the production quotas, and just had to clamp down on it. So I wasn't very popular, but they could go out for a smoke, but it had to be no more than 10 minutes and back into it.
Actually just go and have a smoke. Don't go out there and bludge.
But if you've got 15 people working in the lab and they all smoke and they all take breaks every hour, it soon adds up to loss of production, which mining is all about. And in the laboratory, more so than anywhere, you have to keep that going, because in the morning the results would have to be all entered on the computer and then hard copies taken over to the supervisor of the whole show.
The pit, or...
No, there's pit supervisors, process supervisor, we'll call him. I can't remember it so long ago. Oh, this is bad. Have another drink.
Yeah,
Have another drink.
Cheers, let's do
Cheers.
that.
The head metallurgist. I just remembered.
See, red wine is good for many things.
Yes. The head metallurgist, so had to have the results, and if a machine had broken down or something had happened, I'd have to explain why. And my head was on the chopping block the whole time. I was very unpopular at times with certain people in the lab. If they were doing their job right and were keeping up, it was fine. But if lazy and not doing their job, I used to have to jump on them a bit, because the hierarchies used to jump on me.
Yeah.
So, as they say, shit rolls downhill.
Yeah. Usually it's, in my world, the truckies are at the bottom.
Yeah, well,
Who was at the bottom in the laboratory?
The boys out in the sample prep area were at the bottom.
Yeah. Were there ever girls out in the sample prep? Oh, you started out there, you said.
Yes, I started out there,
mine.
and your sister, my daughter, Dione.
Hard Hat Mentor.
Yes.
Beers with a Minor. People know her as, and you can hear her episode, madmumzie.com/beers8, I believe. I'll leave a link to it in the show notes to listen to Hard Hat Mentor, which is my sister, Blister, your other daughter, who started when she was 18.
Yes, in that first mine, though, not this mine, in the first mine back in South Australia, she started on her 18th birthday as a cleaner. And as luck would have it, on her 21st birthday, she started with me in the laboratory in Western Australia.
Really?
In the lab. Yeah, on her 21st birthday. And happy birthday.
Yeah.
But anyway, she was a terrific worker, and her and I, we got a real rhythm in, and we held a real record. We wanted to break a record of putting the most samples through. And
competitive much?
Very much.
Where do I get it from?
Yeah. But she worked in the lab for a few months, and then she ended up going over to be a mill operator, process operator.
That's probably enough labby stuff, do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. So women, let's talk about in camp in general, perhaps. What do you want to say about women?
Well, as we touched on before, there weren't a lot of women there. There was more in this mine, probably about a dozen, I'd say. Probably about a dozen, and they were all younger than I was.
Mm-hmm. So how old would you have been at this stage?
I was in my early 40s. Fit, played a lot of sport, and loved the lifestyle. But
excuse me for interrupting, how old were you when you started in mining? Was it 40?
About 38.
38. So you were a bit earlier than me, because I was 40. 39, yeah.
Yeah, about the same. You tend to follow in my footsteps a lot.
I do, don't I?
Yeah, but it was good, and even from the first mine, you're dirty and you're tired and you're scruffy, and you go back to your room, and you didn't shower in your room in those days. You had a block of showers that you went to.
Oh, so no ensuite rooms?
No ensuite rooms, just little dongers.
And did you have to share them with the blokes?
No.
The girls had their own...
Yeah, we didn't have as many showers as they did, because there's a lot more of them, of course.
That's fair enough,
yeah.
I suppose.
But, it was funny days, particularly if you'd been out on the Saturday night, and maybe you had a nice set of underwear, and, when it got washed and hung on the line, 9 times out of 10 it disappeared.
Oh, no shit.
The mind boggles. Where it ended up and what happened to it.
And what were they doing? And who knew that they had Lyn's undies? And
not just mine.
Oh, not just yours.
No, not just mine. So, and then, you got a lot of attention, and we found early on that it was great to get a male friend reasonably early.
As in a boyfriend?
Yes,
yeah.
And then they left you alone a bit. Otherwise, everyone was sort of trying to get on with you, and that was too much pressure, Yeah,
because you were single.
I was single.
Single when starting again.
Exactly, but I wasn't looking.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking,
over men.
No, I wasn't over them, but I was there to do a job and make money.
Yeah.
And the rest would have been a bonus. And people think, 12 women and 150 blokes. But, they're just guys, and not everyone appeals to you, a lot of them don't, for whatever reason. A lot of them have issues, as we all do, particularly that sort of age group.
Baggage.
Yeah, baggage. But I hardly ever bought a drink for myself in any wet mess, in any mine that I ever worked in.
Really?
Because I'd buy one, and then when I'd go to buy another one, there'd be 3 or 4 guys wanting to buy me a drink.
So you weren't sitting, like you were prepared to buy a drink?
Of course.
You didn't go there going, right, he's going to buy me a drink now.
No, I was quite shocked.
And because you had plenty of money yourself.
Yeah. And in the first mine, there wasn't even many seats to sit on in the wet mess back then. But whoever was sitting on a seat jumped up when I walked in. Here, Lyn, you can sit here. And I go, all right, because I've been 12 hours. Oh, I'm exhausted.
So did you have to stand up?
Never.
No, I mean at work mainly.
Yes.
Like in the lab
12 hours, all the time.
As breakfast cook,
Yep,
all the time.
all the time, on your feet, 12 hours.
Oh, bugger that.
Yeah.
Not like sitting on your butt in a truck.
No, and even as breakfast cook and then in the lab, we didn't stop. It was very, very hard jobs. Any kitchen hand or anyone who works in catering will know it's hard work. It's not a easy meal, you've got to work hard. And if you're not prepared to do that, well, just don't do it, because you just can't hack it.
Yeah.
I sometimes think driving a truck would be easier, but it's just never been my thing.
I just wrote down to ask you, were you ever tempted to get a job driving a truck?
No, never. Funnily enough, I thought it would be boring. I used to watch them going round and round and up and down all the time, and I think, because I used to like to use my brain back then.
As opposed to now?
As opposed to now. I just thought, no, it's not for me. It's too boring. I couldn't do it. Too monotonous. I liked something happening all the time and have to buzz around and be on my feet, not sit down in a truck all day, every day, 12 hours. And I've never regretted that decision. But you and other people have told me that it's not boring. It's not monotonous.
Well, it can be. Some people find it very boring and can't hack it, or just whinge their guts out about it the whole time. But you, as Mad Mumzie listeners know, that you make your own fun. You've got to be there, plan ahead, learn something, study something, plan for your new house, draw.
While you're in the truck.
While you're there, doing. How do you think I've ended up with 4 brands and a podcast?
Well, the jobs I had back then, there was no time for any of that. Half the time there was no time to even have lunch.
Oh, really? So
we used to get half-hour lunch break.
1 or 2?
1.
In 12 hours?
10 minutes for a morning crib, and that was about all.
Yeah.
But it was just go, go, go all the time, and all you wanted to do at night was fall into bed. But having said that, we didn't do that.
Did you do?
Well, the girls from the...
I have heard plenty of these stories too.
Yeah. Fortunately, we had to walk past a wet mess on our way back from the mine, back to camp.
I'll just interrupt. Just to explain for some people who might not know, you might have guessed by now what a wet mess is.
Wet mess is where they sell alcohol.
Yeah, it's like the bar.
Yeah, the bar.
Yeah. But they call it the wet mess, don't they? Strange name.
Yeah, and the other one, what is it, the mess or the just dry mess? Yeah, that's where you have your meals.
That's where you have your meals, yeah.
But the way it was set up in this second mine, you had to get to camp, you had to walk past that wet mess. And different ones were there earlier than us, guys all drinking, and they'd say, who want a drink? You want a drink? You think, oh, yes. They're hot and dusty, have a drink. So you'd sit and have a drink. And then 2 hours later, you'd still be there after 12 hours, or 14 hours, I suppose, by the time you got up in the morning. And the mess was right next door, so we'd send someone in to see what the meal was for the evening, and if it wasn't any good, we just used to forget about it and just stay there. Consequently, even on a Tuesday night, there'd be a party on, people would just happen, and someone would go and get some spirits, a bottle of bourbon or whatever, and you'd just keep going to about 9 or 10 or something, then think, whoa, I better get home and have a shower and do it all again tomorrow. So
did they sell bottles of bourbon there in the wet mess?
Yes.
True.
Sold
spirits. Not anymore now. I don't know, a few camps you get your 3 light drinks per night, that's it.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
you could get
times
whatever.
Have changed.
Yes. $1 a can, I think it was. Was $1 for a little half bottle of wine.
What did you used to drink back then?
Moselle.
So what? Still wine?
White wine, yes, yeah. And I had another little
Moselle. I remember you drinking Moselle.
Yeah, I had another little sideline going. I used to cut people's hair.
Share that story.
They were, because they were out there for 6 weeks. Invariably, they need a haircut. Some people used to not have a haircut when they're on break, so they'd save it until they got out there. And I wasn't a hairdresser, but someone asked a question one day, could you cut my hair? And I said, I'll give it a go.
Because you used to cut Dad's hair, didn't you?
Yes, yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah, I could do it good enough, I thought, for them. But I used to say, but it'll cost you. And they'd say, how much? And I'd say, cask of wine. So they used to give me a cask of wine or a 6-pack of beer, and I used to put it in the bottom of my wardrobe. And I had so much in there at one stage I could hardly hang my clothes up.
Yeah.
And it was the same if they wanted a beard trim, but I didn't really like trimming the old beard because they were all a bit fussy about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was good fun.
Do you think some of them, I've got to try and put this delicately, just wanted a little bit of Lyn attention? Come and play with my hair. Come and cut my hair. Yeah.
Yeah, there was probably a little bit of that.
Oh, dear. Yeah. So when you were out there, that's when you met your husband now? We'll move on to that?
Yes.
Yeah, because I seem to remember him telling the story of, I'll bring a 6-pack, and you said, don't bother, and opened the wardrobe door because it was full of grog from the haircuts.
And I'm still cutting his hair 26 years later.
Yeah, 26 years. He's awesome.
Yes, people come and went all the time, and from the mine. And this one day, I remember it was a Friday night, and Friday nights were always pretty big because you had to put a carton on if you'd done something wrong during the week.
And they actually did put the carton on, didn't they? Not like nowadays they say, oh, that's a carton, but not always it gets given.
Everyone would save it up and put it on a Friday night, and sometimes it'd be 20 or 30 cartons.
Geez, she must have been going down.
Oh, yeah. Then sometimes someone would just put some on because why not?
Yeah, or someone's leaving or whatever. Yeah.
It's just a good excuse to let your hair down.
So when was this, sorry, on a Friday night?
Friday nights was that. But as I said, any night of the week.
Well, that's it, because it's not a Monday to Friday job, is it? So it's Groundhog Days.
And when you're out there 6 weeks, you've got to make your own fun. It should be in this bag.
Just a little interruption there. My daughter's dog just ate Nana's lipstick. I'll get a beer while we're up. You good?
I'm good.
You good? Where were we? Do you recall?
So one night we were all sitting around having drinks, as you do, and there was a new guy had turned up on the bus, and he happened to sit next to me and chatted away, and they're always a bit strange when they first get there because they don't know anyone, so I talked to him, as you do, and he started telling jokes not very long after he sat down, and he was hilarious, and I remember cracking up at these jokes, and then everybody started telling jokes, so he fitted right in, and that was the beginning of more than a friendship, as it turned out.
Yes, and after how many years? 26 years?
28 years. We've been together now.
Wow.
Yeah, but we worked together. He ended up getting a transfer to the laboratory after we got together. I'd known him for about 8 months, I think, just as a friend. And then there was... then we got together.
Ooh, some flashback times going on.
Yeah.
It is R-rated, but hey, you're my mum.
Yeah. Yeah.
So was he Dione's shift partner?
Yeah.
Or shift boss? Leading hand? Yeah. They worked together, didn't they?
They worked together, and he taught her.
Which is hard hat mentor, my sister. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when we were together, he got a transfer to the lab, and I taught him everything I know.
Oh, and how did that go for you?
Oh, very well. Going to work was excellent.
And I didn't quite mean that bit.
No, he was really good in the lab, very precise, but slow. And he'll probably laugh when he hears that, but he knows he was slow, and I had to keep revving it up him to keep things moving along.
Is that because he was so
meticulous,
precise, like when he cooks?
Like everything he does.
Yeah, so weigh this up, do this, measure twice, cut once. Yeah,
anyway,
which is a good way to be.
He got sick of that after a while. wanted to hightail it back to the plant where he didn't have to work so hard.
Ah, right, yeah.
They don't work... Well, sorry, guys, but they don't work as hard over there as well. Yeah. They didn't have to keep things going as much as quickly as we did.
Yeah.
You know, they had to stop tanks overflowing and keep the process going, but they weren't on the timescale that we were on.
So in the plant, it was more fixing things when they went wrong, was it? That's a question, sorry.
Yeah.
Whereas in the lab, it was constant, get this done, because the figures have to go to the boss to tell them where to drill, where to dig, where to blow up. This is gold, this isn't. That goes to that dump, that goes to the
waste.
Yeah. Where does the good bit go? The crusher?
Yeah, the crusher.
Yeah. Have you ever poured gold or seen a gold pour?
Yes, I've seen it poured. I haven't poured. Whereas the metallurgist used to do that.
Oh.
Yeah, and I held a
Is
gold
that like
bar.
the top of the laboratory?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Crescendo.
Oh, yes. Lab people don't do that.
Oh.
But the metallurgist brought this gold bar in, and I'm sure it was about 50 kilos, rings a bell, but that's pretty heavy.
That's really heavy. 50 ounces?
It was, it was more than, I know, it might have been, I don't know.
50
Sorry,
something.
guys. And they brought it in, it was the size of a house brick, and I couldn't lift it. It was so heavy.
Oh, wow.
And they weighed it on our scales that we had. And we all had pictures taken, kissing it and holding it up.
Oh, wow.
And it was
Have
magic.
you still got those pictures?
Oh, probably in the archive somewhere.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that'd be good.
That was good.
Yeah.
But best thing about that, I loved working there. Worked there for 3.5 years, and it was the fun and the friendship that we made. And I know you talk about your mining family. That was a mining family, and when you're with them for 6 weeks at a time,
oh, major.
You go through all their problems and your problems and your ups and downs, and you really get to know people. And you make your own fun, you know. We had fancy dress parties and cocktail parties and everything. Out in the middle of nowhere, we just made our own fun, and it was great.
And you still had to go to work the next day.
Oh, that was the thing. Yes. We had to go to work, even if we were hungover. You had to go to work. That was the thing.
So you were allowed to do what you want at night, so long as you showed up for work.
You had to be there 6 o'clock in the morning. And walking into the laboratory, us girls used to, because the chemicals in there had this sickly sweet smell, and the number of times that, you know, it was pretty hard working in there, and you had 12 hours of hard slog after a night out. But we did it regularly. You got used to it. You know, sometimes you'd do it on 3 hours sleep, but there was no breathalyzers or anything.
Yeah.
And they didn't drug test you back then either.
Was there much drugs around?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there were drugs around. And there were probably incidents, but I don't know. A lot was swept under the table back then. You know, people got a slap on the wrist or whatever.
It was just about getting the job done.
As long as the job was done and you didn't wreck the machinery, you know, that you're operating or hurt anyone. It was all right. We used to get lectures about it, but we used to go in one ear and out the other, and particularly on the weekends, because all the bosses used to hightail it back to Perth.
So they did
5 days a week.
Oh, like a real job.
Yeah, and there was no bosses on site at all.
Oh.
There was the next person down, who generally was just like the rest of us.
Yeah.
It was good fun.
Yeah.
Good fun. Happy days.
Oh, and good camaraderie. And were there ever, silly question really, of course there always would have been, but times where it gets a bit nasty and feisty and with certain people on crews and things? Did you ever see any all-in brawls or anything like that? No.
Never.
No mass orgies?
Well, no. There was a lot of good parties.
Yeah.
A lot of good parties.
Yeah.
So and the guys could party, and just so long as there was a few women there, even if they weren't sort of with them, it just happened, and everyone was good, you know.
It probably made it feel like living.
Exactly.
Not just having a few drinks with the blokes, you know. Like if you're at home and you're at a barbecue and you've got other people's wives are around and stuff, and it just makes it, and because, you know, we're nice and fun and change. We don't want to move dirt all day or Well, you moved in the lab as well, and just did different stuff with it.
Yeah. But, you know, there was always loud music and lots to drink, and sometimes we'd dance, and I used to think, oh, I can't believe I'm doing this after 12 hours all day on my feet, but never mind. We used to somehow. And it's came now, as you know, that the workforce, they're trying to get a lot more women in because of that settling down factor, that the blokes are better when there's women around.
Yeah.
And it was a lot harder for them back then because there weren't very many of us. And you had to be a certain type of person to work in the mines then, female.
So what sort of women were working out there then? Was it a good cross-section, or were there only mainly certain sorts of people?
Well, the truck drivers were pretty, I'd call them butch type, real strong butch type people who you could never see working in an office or anything like that.
Tomboys.
Kind
of one of the blokes.
Yeah, one of the blokes.
Yep.
Definitely one of the blokes.
Yep.
And they never ever got offered a seat in the bar or anything.
Oh, right.
Because they used to go in there straight from work in their work clothes, and they acted just like one of the blokes.
Yep.
But the females who, particularly the girls who worked in laboratories or were cleaners or whatever, used to go back to their room and wash their hair and get changed and go in there looking half decent. And you got treated differently, for sure, with respect. I don't think I ever got anyone not treat me with respect.
Wow.
As far as the male-female thing went. There's a couple of guys that I didn't really like for whatever reason, but which I won't go into, but nobody ever really gave me a hard time. No, it was great.
Were there any women who went the other way and doled up and they were out there, you know, like sleeping around and stuff? I'm sure there'd be a bit of that.
Yeah, mostly used to be the cleaning staff, believe it or not. Catering type people, I suppose. Were a bit like that. Not to a great extent. The ones who worked for the company, not the catering company, but for the mining company, no, most of them weren't. Most of them ended up with boyfriends. Yeah. And that settled that side of it down.
Were there any husband and wives out there who, like, came as a couple?
Yeah, there was not very many husband and wives. There's girlfriend and boyfriend type.
Because there's quite a few of those now out in the
which
mines.
they didn't really like hiring because if one left, the other one left. And you'd lose two from your workforce, and it was hard to get someone else.
Did they have a couple room? Or,
yeah.
Or a house? Or because somewhere you were working, they had share houses, didn't they?
Yeah,
no, you don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, share houses where we had an all-girls house, which was great. Yeah. I think we had one guy in there, which all the guys wanted to be that guy, but they weren't.
You'd want the gay guy in there.
Well, yeah, he was different, put it that way, not one of the blokes, but the girls' house. But that was sort of different setup. But in another mine we had, they did have a couple's rooms where they had two dongers and they had a doorway between the two, so you could have one set up as a bathroom and the other one with a little lounge in it, a little sofa or something. Not much. Yeah. Not really couples oriented at all. Yeah. No. But you made the best of it. Yeah.
Just going back to rosters a little bit, and you did night shift, you said. How did you go sleeping during the day? Did you have any strategies to help you sleep, or what happened there? You're rolling your eyes at me. Get ready, this could be anything.
I can't sleep during the day.
Not even back then?
No, I terrible sleeper during the day. In cab situation, you get cleaners, and you probably found it too. Yeah. They only got to slam a door in the room next door, and that's it, I'm awake. And if I'm awake, my eyes are just wide awake. And I used to count sheep and do everything. I could not sleep. And when I was with who's my husband now, we were on the same shift, and he'd be snoring alongside of me, but I could not sleep.
Oh.
I didn't like night shift at all.
So how did you struggled when you were at work? Or did you manage to get any sleep at work?
Yes. Well,
there's a good strategy, people. Learn when you can shut your eyes. It helps take the edge off.
Not like some people do nowadays.
Yeah. They've actually have fatigue rooms at the crib huts in the pit.
Really?
At some mines. And they're like a single bed with a light that goes off when you shut the door, and I believe after 20 minutes it comes on. I've never used one myself, but I think I need a lot more than a light coming on to wake me up. And you're not allowed to have your phone in a lot of places as an alarm. I'd still be there in the morning. My truck would be running. Oh dear. So yeah, times have changed. They actually have fatigue. Oh no, there's a name for them. Fatigue room, yeah.
Yeah, and fatigue breaks. You're allowed to have a break.
We're allowed to have a break, yeah. Rather than run a truck up a bund and stuff, yeah.
Because the laboratory, had to keep going, you'd get to a stage where you knew you could go to the crib hut and have a break, but you always had your eye on your watch, and I set an alarm and all that because I had to keep my eye on things. But they had wooden benches, and I could lay out on a wooden bench with my head in the crook of my elbow, which, boy, I wish I could do that now. I could no more do that now than fly to the moon.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Or put your head down and just get 10 minutes. But my worst time was about 4 in the morning. We knocked off at 6, but 4:30, just that light was starting to come. I'd get so tired that I'd even laid down on the floor of the laboratory and got some rags out the rag bag and used that as a pillow. Yeah. But just 10 minutes, just snatch something to keep you going. Yeah. Till you're knocked off. Fine. But that was only on night shift. Day shift, I was fine. But night shift.
Yeah. And so a lot of that is because you didn't manage to sleep in the day.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's something for people who are listening who want to get into mining. Think, I'll get a job in the mines, that'll fix everything. Can you sleep in the day?
Are you a light sleeper?
Are you able to? Yeah, because it can have a big thing, and trucks are hitting buns because someone's had a little micro sleep regularly.
And the crows in the outback.
Oh, crows. Oh yes, crows.
On the roof, crows.
You think it's someone trying to break into your room. They are. And they're pulling rubbish out of bins, and another place had galahs and cockatoos and everything. I even got up and recorded them on my phone. I'm like, how am I meant to sleep in this? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's funny because I used to be so fatigued on night shift because I didn't sleep during the day, and yet I could have 3 hours sleep on day shift and be hungover and still get through the day.
Because the sun was up.
Sun was up,
yeah.
Could do it.
Yeah.
But,
see, I found I'm a little bit the opposite, that I can sleep in the day, no worries. And that as soon as I see the sun start to come up, I get excited and it wakes me up because I think it's getting closer to going home time. But I've heard a lot of people have said, and they keep saying it as kind of an affirmation, as soon as the sun comes up, I'm buggered. That's it. That's when I start getting tired.
That's right.
Oh, well, stop telling yourself that, mate. Yeah. At least start telling your brain, the sun's coming up, I'm going to wake up, Like you're talking yourself into it, aren't you? If you're saying that for 20 years, sun's coming up, quick, get tired.
But, from 5 o'clock onwards, it was full noise having to get the results ready for the metallurgist. You had to be on the ball then, and then go and do it all again, and then not. So I think we did 2 weeks of night shift.
I was going to ask you that, rosters, yes.
2
how
weeks.
That worked.
And had a pajama day, a day off.
Oh, a whole day.
Yeah, which, we had a beautiful swimming pool, and we always used to go to the pool.
Oh, nice.
And, I went through, some guy was, do you want to hear the funny story?
Of course I do.
Yeah, one of my mates was going through a divorce.
Yeah.
So on the day off, was really hot, and he said, let's get some drinks and go down the pool. So we went down the pool, and I was drinking wine out of a cask thing, and it ended up, we took the bladder out of the cask and I put it in the pool to keep it cool.
Yeah.
And I was swimming around and keeping it cool and drinking it with chlorine and all the rest of it.
Straight out the cask?
Straight out the cask.
No wine glass?
No.
Not even a plastic one?
No.
Such a commoner, Mum.
I know. It was in the swimming pool.
Yeah.
And I remember this particular day, we worked out, we spent 7 hours in the pool because a big dust storm come over, and at the end of it they used to have a pull-out cover on the pool. Well, that was sort of at the end all the time, rolled up, and we pulled it out a little bit, and we were under there still drinking, and he was going on about his divorce, and I was I must have been giving him very good advice, I think, or just listening, I don't know. But,
yeah, bit of both.
Yeah, we're both like wrinkled old prunes by the time we come out, but we had a great day.
Yeah.
Great day.
So is that what pyjama days were like usually?
Yeah,
get on the piss at the pool.
There's nothing else for anyone to do. Even the guys, you couldn't go anywhere. There was no town worth going to.
Yeah.
No town worth going to. The nearest big town was 450 k's away.
Yeah.
That's a bit hard to do there and back in the day, which had done.
And then you're supposed to be refreshed and ready to go to work because you had your day off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we just made fun while we were there and talked about what we did on our break. When you first got back from your break, you talked about what you did.
That's what we did.
And then you went through 3 or 4 weeks, and then all you did was look forward to your next break and what you were going to do on your next break.
Yeah. What's on this break? See, I go through that, but I do it in days, not weeks. So the first day and couple of days you're catching up with people, what did you do last break? And then it was, and then, what's on this break? Yeah. But you did that in weeks.
And right throughout the whole mine, because there was laboratories, I'm not admin, they only worked 5 days a week, but laboratories and plant operators and machinery operators, and everyone was on, although they were all on 6 and 1, there was always people coming and going at certain stages throughout the roster. Yeah, so there's always someone down in the dumps because they'd just come back from, we've got 6 weeks to go, or others were, yay, we're going soon. And it's like that now, but I think nowadays, looking back on it, I think it was a lot harder what we had to do, but we had a lot of fun. Things were more fun. You were allowed to have fun. The blind eye was turned to a lot of it, as I said, as long as you turned up for work in some sort of shape without messing anything up. It got by, People were reprimanded if they didn't come to work.
Because there was still a line, obviously.
There was a line,
It was just a lot further along than the lines are now.
Oh, yeah. I think safety-wise, what you guys do is a lot better now. It's a wonder there weren't a lot more accidents back then, really. Even the clothes we wore and everything like that.
Yeah, and no sunscreen. Did you have sunscreen?
No.
So that's a big part of wearing the long sleeves is skin cancer.
Which I'm starting to get the odd one now. But that comes from youth. Back then, back in the day, sunscreen I don't think was invented. It was called baby oil.
I knew you were going to say that. Wow, I can't imagine that. Well, I can because I've seen you do it. Lay out there with baby oil on. You just couldn't do it.
Just sizzled and fried.
Yeah, it'd be crazy. Oh, so I suppose kind of moving on, is there anything else that you want to say before we do about, we could talk forever on all this, but is there anything, one story I would like you to share is when the big truck turned up on site. There was the latest big truck turned up and you all went running out to go and see it. And it was a 777, which is now a tiny truck.
Right. What were the trucks we had? Were they 555s?
No, they would have been, I don't know, 763 or something.
I don't think they were 7 anything. I can't remember.
I don't know what.
But they were they're like Tinker Toys now when we see them.
Yeah. Because Well, perhaps it was your hubby, Baz, who was there. He remembers it because we laugh because we both drive trucks. We're like, oh my God, it's 777. And they're so little. They're the smallest trucks that we ever see.
Yeah, that was the biggest.
And everyone was going, and you were going, wow, it's so big. Times change, don't they? They just
certainly do.
So you have had this career, started as a breakfast cook, went to the lab, left after a while, opened a shop, decided to go back to mining, back as a cook, then back into the labs, then a lab supervisor. What happened after that? Did you leave again and then end up going back? Or because I know that you've worked in most states of Australia.
Yes, I went back to West Australia 3 times to the same mine, as it turned out, and each time it changed hands.
Ah, right.
Got sold and went back there, so that was quite a few years. But then when my husband Barry and I, we were going to get married, we both said, oh, we've had enough, we're over it, and we didn't think it would be a good married life for us, so I talked him into coming back to Queensland. And he said, yes, let's do it. So we came back to Queensland and went back, that's right. And then we were going to get married, and we got married in Adelaide and moved to Queensland again, moved around a lot and spent a few years in Queensland, and I didn't work much and he couldn't get much work, and it was pretty tough times. So it was, let's go back to WA. And he got a job back in West Australia in Kalgoorlie in the big super pit. And
wow. Yeah, that's one of the biggest in the world.
Yeah. And I didn't want to live in Kalgoorlie. I don't know why, but I didn't want to then. So I lived closer to Perth. And he was away for 2 weeks at a time. And that was the first time since we'd been together that we were apart. And I didn't handle it very well.
So how much time did he have off? 2 weeks on? Was it 1 week?
1 week off.
One off?
Yeah, which was a far better roster, but I was by myself in a strange town and I didn't really like it. And I got
you weren't working?
No, I weren't working. And I was very ill while I was there. So we left there, and I left there and moved to Kalgoorlie with him. But I was recuperating.
So he was home every night?
Every night. He was home every night.
Townie.
Yeah. And he loved working in the super pit, and I went there and did a big tour of it and all the rest of it and loved it. Yeah. But I was too ill to go back to work. So I'd pretty much retired from all that then. And that was when he got me into painting. So Barry bought me a canvas and some paints and said, how about try and paint? And I said, oh, all right, I'll give it a go. So I tried painting and it wasn't very good, but it was all right. I dabbled.
What did you paint? What was the first thing you painted?
Oh, the first thing I painted was a swan that looked like a fat little duck or something. It was pretty gross. Yeah. And a flour mill that I think I've still got that painting, and you look back now and go, oh my God.
Oh my God, oh my God.
Yeah. So he worked there for a year or two, and then we decided we'd leave again, and we went to Queensland, this time to Brisbane, and he was working there, and then he got a job in New South Wales in a mine. By this time he was a loader operator, truck operator, trainer assessor. No, he wasn't trainer assessor then. Loader operator and truck operator. And we moved to New South Wales and stayed there for 2 years. And I painted quite a bit while I was there.
So did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy the painting?
Loved it. I wasn't very good though, but I loved it. Sold a few to friends. Yeah. You know, guys knew in the mines and that. Yeah. Yeah, you should sell on eBay. Yeah. Sold quite a few on eBay.
Because I remember helping you do that. We had a list, wrote out what to do.
Yes.
You've come so far.
Yes, that was good
My
fun.
techno mum.
Not really.
Yes, you are.
Still not very techno. You're the techno person in the family.
So that's when you ended up having a medical to go back in the mines when you were 60. Was that down there?
Yes, well,
Because that's another story we need to share.
By this time, you'd arrived in New South Wales and lived with us.
And that's when I started my mining career.
Your mining career. Seeing the rest of us had all done it, so it was your turn to come in. And I think Barry taught you a few things.
Oh, plenty. I've just got to say this. And we used to come home and Barry would be teaching me, because I was hopeless, and how to back in under the shovel properly in a truck, and we'd have the remote controls out on the coffee table and say the shovel's here and you go around the back of it and you do the curve and you come back, and you'd always tell us off and we had to shut up because Home and Away was on. Well, you two shut up talking bloody mining. Oh my God, it was funny.
Yeah, well, while we were there, I decided I was bored and needed to meet some people, so I got a job. There was a laboratory in town. So they wanted a laboratory assistant, and I thought, that'll do. By this time, I'd turned 60, so this is 11 years ago. 11 years ago. Do the math. And went along to the doctor for a medical, and he said, are you sure you want a medical to work in a laboratory? And I said, yes. And he said, you know I can fail you if you don't really want to work in the laboratory.
Are you being made to do this?
I said, no, I'm not being made to do it. I want to do it.
Yeah.
And I didn't need to do it. You know, Barry was earning enough money. There wasn't a money problem. I just needed to do something. And I thought, I know how to do that. Anyway, we got through going through the medical, and I had to do squats. And I thought, this will be good, because the old knees weren't too good back then. It's not much better now, as it turns out.
To now.
And I said, look, I can't do squats. He said, just try. So I bobbed up and down a bit, and he said, that's not a squat. And I said, well, you hold my hands and I might be able to do one. Got me back up, and he said, are you really sure you want to go and work in this laboratory? And I said, look, I don't have to do squats.
Yeah, I don't have to do squat.
Squat. Oh, I knew I had to work, but I knew what my limitations were, and I knew I'd be able to do it.
Yeah.
And because I thought
you wouldn't have gone back otherwise,
no,
would you?
I'm not going in as a supervisor. I'm just going in as a little labbie. It'll be fine. And he asked me so many times. He said, "You're 60 years old. You sure?" I said, "Yes." So he passed me. I got the job. And everyone else was heaps younger than me, but I was fairly experienced, so it was a breeze. I knew what I was doing, and they soon knew that I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I did that for a while, and that was good. Worked out good.
Yeah. And then when you left there, that was the last mining job?
That was the last mining job.
Yeah.
I decided, I reckon that's it.
Oh, I reckon that's it.
Because I had this little thing in the back of my head that I wanted to paint. Keep painting.
And be an artist. So before we move into the next stage, which is your art, and we'll touch on that, do you have any tips for women coming through now who are looking to work in a male-dominated industry, not just mining? It can be used in anything, but I mean, you're one of our pioneers. You were out there in the trenches.
Oh, it's in the trenches.
You were clearing the way for us chicks to come in now. Have you got anything you'd like to say to people thinking about it, or even doing it already?
Yeah, I think you need to be a fairly strong personality. Don't let the guys wear you down or walk all over you. Learn your job and do it to the best of your ability. But if you're not handling it, don't just break down and cry.
Like me used to.
You don't usually get anywhere like that. Ask someone. If you don't know something, ask. I've always been a firm believer in that, and I still do it. Now I Google something if I don't know it, so that works well.
Ask Simon.
But in mining, you can't really, Google it. But just believe in yourself and have pride in yourself, I would say. And don't fall into just being one of the blokes. I found that the girls, women, females who be female get on and are accepted a lot better than ones who just try and be one of the blokes. Because, okay, yeah, you're one of the blokes and you swear and all that. We all do occasionally. Well, a lot. My mother used to tell me that whenever I come home on break, I had a foul mouth, which I didn't think I did have because I tried to not have it.
When you were at home with Nana.
Yeah, but at work, that was something I consciously tried not to do because they don't really like it. Deep down, they like you to be not prim and proper by any means. You know, enjoy yourself, but be proud of being a female. And I had to really try and be as good, if not better than them at what I did. But that was just me. Some people don't have that in them. Something I've always done. You know, if I was getting the same money, I was going to at least be as good as them, if not better. And I found I was always successful doing it that way.
I found that I remember you saying to me when I started, don't be a thing. I think you called it. You know, don't just try. I'm trying to think how you put it. It was about still be a girl who drives a truck. So you don't have to be one of the blokes. But I know that that's kind of where I started because I've always been tomboy anyway. And I think I've kind of come full circle. I used to pride myself because I could swear along with the best of them. Whereas now I really do try to not swear as much. And okay, I swear on this podcast sometimes, and sometimes it's bloody well needed, you know.
Exactly, yeah.
For emphasis, at least use it instead of a joining word, which some women and men do. So there's a balance to everything. And I guess I've grown up too because I've been doing it for 12 years now myself.
And I think the other thing is, because you will get attention, certain girls who look different than others get more attention than others. Don't let it go to your head. Because a lot of blokes out there, guys, whatever you like to call them, and maybe not as much now because particularly over here in Cole and the rosters are so small, they're not so lonely. But when it's a big roster and they're a long way away from home, they just really, really want female company, and you have to learn to be nice but firm and pretty much don't be a tramp or whatever you like to call it, because they don't think anything of you anyway after that. You've got to have self-respect. Yeah. And if you can have that self-respect and your own morals, you'll go a long way. And ultimately, they respect you for that anyway.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to bring up, instill into you and into your sister.
Well, and especially, and Dione did talk about it in our interview, where she was 18. The only clothes she owned were shorts and stuff. Yeah. And she didn't even realise what she was putting out at that stage. But and you were there. You would have had to have talked her through all of that as well.
Yes,
and protect your daughter.
I was like an old mother hen.
Oh, yeah. And she was probably very lucky that you were there too. Might have been a different story. Never thought of that before.
I don't think she would have started there if I hadn't have been there. Wouldn't have been in her radar, I don't think.
Probably.
Not really. Not at that age. And nowadays, as I said, it's a lot easier because there's so many more females in the workforce, and it's great.
Yeah.
You know, we had to go through a lot. And now laws are that they're not allowed to harass you. They're not allowed to say certain things to you. It's, what do you call it? Sexual harassment and discrimination. There was nothing like that back then. Nothing like that. And you had to rise above it somehow or tell them where to go, which is mostly what I did.
Stand up for yourself.
Stand up for yourself, yeah. You had to, you know. So you're right, pioneer, I suppose, paved the way. And over the years, it's all got a lot better. Yeah. Sometimes it's taken a bit too far, I think, but, you know.
Yeah, and that can come in because everything's so politically correct now. It's not just women at work. It's race. It's everything.
Religion.
Religion, sexuality, as well as being. But back then, it was probably being a woman was the first thing that they started looking at. Now, hang on, mate, you can't. And a big thing that I like to try and say is to the blokes, I'd like them to think along the lines of, imagine if it's your daughter out there or your sister or your mum that's working out there, would you talk to them like that? Would you want other people to treat them like that? So, and it has changed even in my 10, 12 years, as you know, and then in your 30. So that's a good thing. We're on the right track.
Yeah, well, back then there was a lot of guys who left wherever, Victoria, Tasmania, anywhere on the east coast, went over to the west. They left a failed marriage behind, and they just wanted to lose themselves out in the desert and make money. And a lot of it was, with some of them, not all of them by any stretch of the imagination, but you did come across the chauvinist ones where it was, oh, you bloody women, you know, you bloody females, this and that. And I made a point of, oh, you wait, you'll end up being a mate of mine, you know, and prove to them that I wasn't like that.
Yeah. And not all women are like that.
Not all women are
and
like
the same
that.
with men. Not all women are like that. Men are like that if you've been burned for whatever reason.
Yeah, you get burnt, and you do put people in groups, you know. But there was a lot of guys out there like that, and I used to just suss them all out and leave them be, and then some of them I end up being real good buddies with, you know.
I know you've told me over the years there were also guys out there, don't take a photo of me. Where's that photo going? Because they're out there working away and not paying
child support,
just
making a
hiding.
lot of money. Making a lot of money, hiding out, not paying child support, or there was warrants out for the arrests or whatever.
Because it wasn't so. Because
you didn't even have a police check when you started work, so no one knew where you were.
Yeah, you could have been anyone.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
Times have changed now. God, everything you got to try and get together just to apply for a job, front and back of license and birth certificate and this and that. It wasn't all of that back then. Just rock up and do the job. If you can do it, you're hired.
That's right. Yeah. Just rocked up.
So, in closing, how do you, Lyn Olsen, my mum, when life goes to shit or when things get tough, we all need to have strategies to get us through those times. What do you do in day-to-day life that makes you know when things go bad, you have a way to deal with it?
Well, as we touched on before, I took up painting and it became my passion, particularly when I eventually left mining at the age of 62, I think.
After doing a half squat for a medical.
Totally out of my system and decided, no, I'm going to be an artist. So I put my heart and soul into being an artist, and I'm getting there. I'm gradually, with a lot of help from you and my family, my support group, I'm becoming reasonably successful. So I go to my happy place, and I suppose what you're trying to say is, what is your happy place?
Yeah.
And my happy place is my studio down in the backyard, surrounded by my art, music on, fan on, because we're in Queensland. If it's too hot, the aircon, but I don't use the aircon much. It's usually just the fans and the music, and I just paint. And I'm totally engrossed in what I'm doing. And I just forget about it, whatever it is, bills, health, family problems, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's how I de-stress, because I'm really, really happiest when I'm painting.
Oh, that's lovely. And I'll add some photos, if I may. Do I have permission?
Yes.
Of the studio in the show notes, which can be found at madmumzie.com/beers18. That's the number 18. Now, you're a little bit famous. You're being very modest in this. You were on the Colour in Your Life TV show. For those who may not know, perhaps you don't know, it's the show that's on the telly where the guy is on a Harley and he rocks up and he interviews artists around the world. And you were on that show. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes.
So exciting.
That was exciting. Back in Perth once again, but this time.
How many times have you been over that Nullarbor?
Well, Barry is West Australian, so we tend to go back for family reasons.
Yeah.
Plus, Dione, my daughter, lives over there, so we do go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Nullarbor, this time in a caravan and on holidays. and the TV show was being shown over there, being filmed. So I was invited through my website to do the show, and I thought, oh yes, all right. So I did the show, which is 24 minutes of uninterrupted being interviewed and painting at the same time. Totally scary, with lights and microphones, and very, very scary. But a lot has come out of it, and I really enjoyed it.
And that was at Dione's house?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's really helped you, because I've been trying to get you to share your art online more, your workshops and things. So that's where we're working now in Mad Mumzie's spare time. And I know that since you did that show, you realised that, yeah, you can share what you do and you can speak on a microphone, and you've been fantastic today as well. And so you've got the website, which is
LynOlsen.com.
LynOlsen.com. I'll add links in the show notes. And an online school. Do you know what that is? She's pointing at me because I do it for her. It's learn.lynolsen.com. And some of the workshops on there are free. There's a couple of free courses on there, and there's a couple that, you can pay for, and there's going to be more. And I don't paint at all. Not an artist bone in my body, although Mum seems to think it's hiding in there somewhere.
No, you're the writer.
So I interview, I guess. Well, not interview, commentate whilst Mum is painting and sharing. And I ask the questions that Mum doesn't even realise people don't know. I come from the total, oh my God, I have no idea what you're talking about. Why did you just do that? What is this again? What is that? So, and it's a little bit of fun and banter, and we have lorikeets and rainy days and stuff. And so we're really enjoying that, and that's what we're working towards.
Yes, and my artwork is very contemporary. I found when I did the Colour in Your Life show, I painted coral reef scene, and it's done very well around the world. Up to this point in time, there's been 29,500 hits.
Oh my God,
on
we're going to
YouTube.
30,000 soon. We better have a cheers on that.
Cheers.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And because of that, I've been invited to go in various publications, art publications, and I won an award this year for Contemporary Artist Award, Top 60 Masters. Nice. And this was a worldwide award, which sort of blew me away a bit.
Is that where you were going to go to France?
Yes.
And go to the castle and get rewarded? No, that's not the word. Awarded.
Get awarded.
Awarded and stuff. But yeah, you couldn't get over there.
No, we decided not to go because it was just after the Paris bombings.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you didn't go.
Yeah, and it was in a chateau in France, which in other times would have been unbelievable, but we chose not to go. And then since then, there's been the one in Nice and various other things. So we tend to, I think, want to stay in Australia at the moment.
I think that's a good idea.
But I've was invited to be represented by an art gallery in Miami, not Miami, Australia, Miami, Florida.
Well, not Miami on the Gold Coast.
Yes, there's a Miami in Perth, or Mandurah as well.
Oh, and there's one on the Gold Coast?
Yes.
Or did I make that up?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
So the real Miami.
The real Miami.
Yeah.
And I'm represented by that gallery at the moment. So I sent a few paintings over there, and that went well. And then I was invited to show in New York in a group showing. So they went to New York, and that was rather mind-blowing.
Wow.
And then from there, I was invited to show in Italy and so on. And so it's continuing like that at the moment. So, yeah, it's doing really well. I'm loving it. And it's something I can do now that I'm older and not as mobile as I used to be, but I can keep doing it and I love it. And that's where I'm at this point in time.
And it's fantastic. And I'm really excited about the online workshops because we've got a lot more to share yet. And
That's
you
right.
also do workshops in person, not just online. But that's lessening now
Yeah, I
because
do.
of travel and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I keep getting asked to do workshops around Australia. Latest one, I've been asked to do one on the Gold Coast, so that'll be good.
Yeah.
And just see how they come and where I'm at the time as to what I do and how busy I am.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going really well.
That's
And I can see
fantastic.
me doing it forever.
Forever. Yeah, of course.
With
forever.
my support crew, yourself mainly, and my husband Barry does all my postage and packaging and shipping and stringing of paintings. And
He's awesome. He's even got his own little course on the school.
that's right.
Yeah, of how to string your painting. And he's a born trainer, teacher.
He is.
He is. And yes, he is coming on the podcast. We're going to talk all about training. So in closing, if someone wanted to reach out and connect with you in regards to your art, what is the best place for them to follow and see your art and see what's going on?
Well, I have a Facebook page, Lyn Olsen Art, and I also have a website, lynolsen.com. And for my online workshops, learn.lynolsen.com. And I'm also on Pinterest, Lyn Olsen.
Lyn Olsen, she's looking at me with raised eyebrows because we've just cranking up Pinterest. But it's time to say goodbye now. We could chat all day and I have been known to, but I have to go and cook tea.
That's right, you're cooking tea tonight.
I'm on tea and hopefully the dog in the background hasn't distracted everyone too much. I will edit out as much as I can, but we're babysitting my daughter's dog. All the links we discussed in this episode are at madmumzie.com/beers18. That's Mad Mumzie with a Z or a Z, depending where you're from, and the number 18. I would love you to please leave a rating and review on iTunes so more people can hear about the Beers with a Minor podcast. What's that? You're not an iTunes fan? Or just search for Beers with a Minor in your favourite podcast app. And of course, please share with your mates. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you. Until next week, stay safe. Be real, be special, and have fun, for we only live once. Cheers.